Perfect. Hello, everyone. Today is episode 3 of The Construct. We have a very special guest with me. This is an old friend of mine from high school, Ashley Sosa. Please tell us a little bit about yourself. How you doing?
Thank you so much, Anthony, for having me. My name is Ashley Sosa. I've known Anthony back from high school in our hometown. So I'm doing well. I ended up moving. I'm in North Carolina now, actually, from Pennsylvania, born and raised. But I'm doing well. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. And actually, I'm not sure if you know this. I actually moved to North Carolina myself.
Oh, so you're in Raleigh?
In Raleigh, yeah. I moved to Raleigh. It'll be a year last August. I've been here.
That's so cool. I ended up moving back to Raleigh 2023. So I've only been here for like going on 2 years now since I came back.
Oh, wow. The food here is
Yeah.
not that good, right?
Well, I tried going back up north and I was like, okay, there's a reason why I moved down south. I'm staying here.
Really?
hmm I wouldn't
Oh,
go back up north. I wouldn't.
me neither.
Yeah.
And I think we'll get into that a little bit about because moving out of Pennsylvania helped me a lot mentally. So we'll get to that in a sec. But my first question for you, Ashley, and again, this is very brave of you to come here. Thank you so much for your time. Since I've known you, actually, we know the last time we seen each other was high school, but we actually were in ESOL together
Mhm.
in middle school.
Yeah.
And back then, you've always come up across as someone that was very confident, strong. Um, where did that come from? And was there a specific moment that shaped that part of you?
Yes. I like to say my parents, specifically my father, the relationship I carried with my father is honest to God, probably the reason why I walk the way I do in life. I want to say the way he raised me, my upbringing, our culture, the expectations set at home kind of molded me to how I carry out life and my perspective in life.
And remind me, are you Dominican?
Yes, I'm Dominican.
Dominican,
People
okay.
always confuse me. I should be honest and say I'm half and half. I don't tell other people I am some Puerto Rican in me, but I'm half and half. I'm Puerto Rican and Dominican, but I only claim Dominican.
Why? You're a mixed
Honestly,
bag.
because like the only Puerto Rican that I have is my grandfather, and he is literally from my mom's side, but he's Puerto Rican and Dominican, and then my grandmother was fully Dominican. So that's literally like the only part of Puerto Rican that I have. Everything else is Dominican. Everybody else within my family is Dominican, 100%.
Interesting. Okay. Um,
Yeah, so I'm
so
like, I'm just being Puerto Rican.
yeah, no, the Dominicans for sure. And for where we're from, you can't miss. There's Puerto Ricans and Dominicans everywhere. You can't miss them over there.
Literally.
Uh, so when people see you now, because I've seen your Facebook page, do a lot
Yeah.
of modeling, with your gym life. I see that you take care of yourself a lot. Um, and some people might assume that you were always someone that was about self-love and, someone that took care of themselves all the time, right? But what's a part of your
Yeah.
story most people don't know?
So I had PCOS, which led to a form of ovarian cancer. This was a few years back. Um, Hand in hand with also, my suicide attempt. There was a lot of few years in my life where I went through different things that kind of pushed me and motivated me to a healthier lifestyle in all areas within my life, emotionally, spiritually, physically, financially. The experiences that you go through in life definitely do mold the type of person you choose to be every day, you know? And when I turned to weight loss for me wasn't because of beauty. It wasn't because I was too fat and I wanted to be skinny and fit in. I had ovarian cancer. I had a mass the size of a baseball in my right ovary. I was rushed out one day. I was working at a dentist's office off of like Dorney Park exit. And
Mhm.
I survived. I'm good. I'm healthy. My PCOS was something, I mean, before I went and got my gastric sleeve surgery, because I am open about it, I was basically they told me that if I ate a salad, I would gain weight. My PCOS was that bad. It went hand in hand with, just being a woman and my hormones and just working against me. So that's honest to God why I even got to the gym and I got involved in the health field. And then what happened was once I started losing the weight and I started doing these things, it kind of just encouraged me to implement it throughout my whole entire day to day in life.
That's powerful. That's very powerful. And how long ago was this when you were diagnosed with the cancer?
Ooh, we're looking at like 2013.
Just like graduation.
Yeah, like right after
Oh my.
graduation, it was like my very first relationship. I had just freshly moved out. I was still in Pennsylvania. I was living in Allentown at the time.
Hmm. Wow. So
Yeah.
looking back at the version of you in high school or even middle school, what do you think she would be most proud of seeing you today?
Oh wow. If I met myself in middle school, I think I'd give myself a hug because I didn't realize what I was walking into and what I was going to face in life. And knowing that I am here today, it's it's probably one of my proudest things.
And every day you don't take for granted, right? It's just another oh Tito.
Right.
Listen,
I just
it's a
I'm a very positive person and I smile a lot because I just feel like even if we are sad and even if it's a bad day, like I don't have to make it a bad day for somebody else. So if I'm sad, somebody better smile out here if it's not me.
and you've always had a beautiful smile about you, Ashley. And since I've known you, I've never seen anyone negative or even just like, bad energy around you. So just understand that you matter. And I appreciate that. It is not easy, telling your story like this. So you should be proud.
You're the first
You just
person that I go live with, because I am open about my story and I do talk about it with a lot of people because I feel like mental health has definitely increased throughout the years, and I feel like people make more jokes about it than they do take it serious. So I am very open, but this is the first time I ever go live and know that the whole world is going to see it.
yes, and I want to make sure that because I feel like when we were in high school, at least for myself, the idea of mental health
Mhm.
wasn't that big of a issue back then, you know? Like it was known,
Right.
but it wasn't like as like there wasn't much of a movement to try to like help those struggling through mental health. And
Yeah.
you know, I feel my family has history of bipolar, depression, anxiety, OCD. You just named the whole like list of everything. And
Oh.
when I was young, I knew that I was something about me was different. I was always
I was going to say a little bit of everything, huh?
a little bit of everything, yeah. And I just felt unsure
I thank
of
you for.
sorry about that. It'll probably come around. Can you hear me better now?
Hmm.
Okay. If there's a delay, just we'll make it work.
I
But
got you.
okay, perfect. Yeah, so yeah, I understand your pain though. Trust me. And I guess which leads to my next question to you. What because you've been like you said, you've been vocal, at least through Facebook that I've seen you about suicide prevention and mental health. Um you kind of already addressed it, but what pushed you to use your voice for that cause specifically?
Um, when I tried to commit suicide, I was hospitalized for about 2 weeks over at St. Luke's Hospital. When I got out of there, I told myself, okay, if I made the decision to live, then I need to talk about it. You know what I mean? I need to do what I need to do to make sure that I continue to move forward from this experience, which meant being honest with myself and being honest with every single person around me being accepting to myself, accepting the fact that I do have depression and that I do have anxiety, and loving who I am, you know what I mean? And being able to say, hey, I'm having a bad day, and tell people where I came from and where I am today. Honestly, I feel like my suicide itself is my motivation to want to speak about it, because I made it through. You know what I mean? I was the person who just I didn't just talk about it, Anthony. I went all the way through. You know what I mean? I can tell you my suicide story like it was yesterday. I can tell you what I wore, what perfume I put on, my hair. It's very vivid. But that's why, I feel like people deserve to know that even the most perfect person, like you said, I always seem so put together, and I seem always so strong and so happy all the time. And sometimes, it's not what you see. And it's okay to be honest.
Absolutely. And I think that a lot of people feel like there's a pressure on themselves to be perfect, whether it's, family that's putting that pressure on them, that, you have to be happy all the time, and, you're not allowed to express your emotions. Um, and this is why your story is so important. I didn't know about this at all. And I'm so happy that you're here, Ashley, because I know that there's someone out here in the world that
Thank-
be feeling the same, or maybe even considering those thoughts. But
right.
you are you are a shining example of that you can get out of that, and that life is worth living, and there's so much more to strive towards, and that you're not alone. I'm sure,
Right.
because just if you don't mind me asking, how long ago was this that happened? Your suicide attempt?
My official suicide attempt was in 2015, end of 2015, going on to 2016.
Wow.
And soon after, I had moved to North Carolina. Um, I was, it was summer, summer of June. It was beginning of June. My suicide attempt was on Airport Road behind the abandoned movie theater. If you remember it, the one that's off of Airport Road in the back,
Yeah.
when you would go all the way towards the back where like the BJ's was. I
Yeah.
had parked my car there, and I had tried to commit an overdose. I my route of suicide was pills.
Hmm. And yeah, I know that area, and this just blows my mind, because in 2015, I think I was still in college, and after high school, everyone kind of goes their own way, and there's a lot of people I've known that
Right,
aren't that died from overdose and pills, that aren't here today, that we went to high school with,
right.
and it's just
So many.
wow. Yeah, so many, and it's
Yeah.
now, and even now, I feel like people are way more depressed now. Like back then, people just like you know dealt with it without even considering. Now there's so much
Which is a
help.
lot
There's
easier.
therapy. Hmm. It's and
Yeah. But we've lost
it's
a lot of people. We've lost a lot of people from like our high school.
I know. And so in your opinion, because when people say depression, they don't really. There's some people that are just close-minded, and they just think that depression is like not real, and that it's fake, and it's just like whatever. In your opinion, what's the one thing people still to this day get completely wrong about mental health?
Um, it's not just a feeling. People think that depression is sad. They associate depression with sad. No, depression is a chemically unbalanced actual diagnosis that you have to fight every single day. It's not, hey, I'm sad and I'm gonna cry about it so I can feel better, and then I do feel better. You know what I mean? No, it's getting up one day and you're having the best day of your life, and for some reason your mind goes somewhere else. You know, and it brings on feelings that aren't real, and in that moment you have to fight, and you are against yourself. The fight is literally against yourself. I think that people associate depression with just being sad, and they just roll right over it. And it's more to it. It's literally a diagnosis. It's not curable. It is something that you have to work at every day.
I completely agree, and it's funny. Even are you religious, by the way, if you don't mind me asking?
I am Catholic.
Catholic. Okay. Um, I always tell people that I think there's a spiritual war that's invisible that we don't see called life.
100%.
And I always people who, have gone through trauma or addiction or whatever think that, oh, once I get through rehab, whatever, I'm done, I'm healed, whatever. No, that's not how it works. And to this day, I go to the gym every day. I pray to God every day. I make sure I do things to keep myself productive, so that way my mind doesn't go to a dark place, so that
Mhm,
way
mhm.
those dark thoughts, because sometimes when you're in isolation and you don't do anything productive, that could just bring you to a dark place. And that's something that happened a lot to me back in
Anthony,
Pennsylvania.
you literally that's the secret to me. Everybody always says, "Ashley, you're always so busy and you're always doing something." Well, Anthony, you just said it. Being somebody who is very aware of her depression and anxiety and suicide, I am somebody who like I'll wake up at 3:45 and I'll Uber and I'll Lyft and then I'll hit the gym at 6 a.m. and then I'll come back and I'll work my day to day and I'll clean and I'll cook but I have to be doing something because if I just sit there and I think and I allow myself to feel, then that's our consciousness forcing us to live in our unconscious state, meaning we are literally forcing ourselves to feel things that are not actually happening anymore. And
Hmm.
that's what we need to avoid.
I completely agree. So how has your faith or your spirituality has helped you during the low points in your life?
So I will tell my story. So when I went through with my suicide attempt, I went ahead and I took pills behind the theater off of Airport Road. When I woke up, I was at the ER. My mom was there, my grandmother was there, and my sister. My dad, I heard he was actually in the waiting room waiting. When I woke up, I remember the doctors asking me, do you know why you're here? And I said, yes. And the doctor said, you know, do you remember what you did? And I said, yes. And he said, I need to ask you something. Do you want your mom to step out? And I said, no. I shook my head because at that point I was basically tubed up. So I was just responding with just head nods. Because they had to pump out my stomach. I had taken all of my mom's um, pain medication. And
Hmm.
when the doctor asked me if I wanted to die, I nodded and I said yes. And I remember when I finally got transferred over to the floor where I was going to be staying at, I kept wondering, well, how did I get to the ER? Because I had locked my RAV4 and it was hot, Anthony. And I sat in the car and I started taking my pills one by one until I can feel my breath slowing down. And that was the last thing I remember. And when I woke up, I was in the ER. And to this day, I say, well, God wanted me here
Of
because I
course.
don't know how I got there and I don't know who found me. I just know that they called my mom at I-Corps because she was working at I-Corps at the time. And she got there and she said, they told me you were here and that they found you unconscious and it seems like it was an overdose. They had pumped your stomach. But Anthony, I can't tell you who saved my life. I can't tell you who found me in that parking lot. I don't know. I don't know. And because of that, I say God is real because He wants me here. Because if He didn't, then I wouldn't have made it to the ER. I purposely chose a place where nobody would even think to look for me. And somehow I'm still here. So my faith has grown tremendously after that experience, which is why I started going to church. And, you know, recently I haven't been going to church, but I was somebody who was going to church every Sunday. And ever since that experience, I held on to God very, very much. And it's the reason why I say, okay, I'm supposed to live. It's the main reason why I say, okay, I have a purpose. Like there's something I need to get done.
I just want to say that's very powerful, and God has a purpose for you, Ashley. You are meant to be here for a reason, and I'll tell you a when I was born, I'm just I'm not supposed to be here either. I was born with my umbilical cord tied around my neck, and I was dead for a few minutes when I was a child. And
Oh,
my mom, my grandmother were in there, praying to God, just to allow I was my grandmother's first grandson, and in Spanish households
yeah,
they tend to like have like a, you know, be very prideful when it
yeah.
comes to things like that.
It's a thing.
Eh, yeah, for sure. And I woke up, well, obviously, I'm alive and everything turned out well, but my mom told me that that people like that, when they have near life death experiences, is because the enemy wants you gone, and they don't want you and they know that your purpose here in this world is a lot bigger than you could possibly imagine. And I see that with
Yeah,
you. I see that with you for sure.
yeah, yeah.
And I just I just want to say, I commend you. And what what's been the biggest thing that has taught you how to love yourself again after that whole experience?
Realizing that that's all I have. You know what I mean? That's all we all have as human beings that were put here on earth. At the end of the day, as humans, we yearn for somebody else's attention, affection, validation, and so forth. When in reality, if you allow yourself to only depend on somebody else to feel these things about you, then you are left with nothing. And you have nothing to give, you know? You have to worry about yourself. And I went into a phase what I called emotional control. So basically, after my suicide attempt, I decided to move to North Carolina. I closed many chapters. I removed many people from my life. Started focusing on me. I started reading more. I started, taking walks, going to the park. I started going to church every Sunday. Um, I got closer to my parents again. I got really close to my sister. My suicide definitely kind of helped me and my sister. My sister's relationship is totally different, and I'm blessed now, because we weren't this close. But it's, I want to say that the suicide itself is actually a positive thing, if that makes sense. Like, you have to learn to
Yeah.
love yourself. And that's how I learned. That is how I learned, because at the end of the day, I went through what I went through because I put myself last instead of putting myself first. And with emotional control, it's like you have to have sympathy over empathy. You can, feel bad for people, but you don't have to carry their weight. You can love somebody, but if it's not reciprocated, then you have every right to walk away. Because at the end of the day, it's how you feel. And if a situation or a person or a place or a job or a thing is making you feel anything other than good, then it should be removed. Love yourself, because you will lose yourself if you don't.
And is that the advice you would give to someone that might still be struggling, um, believing that they are worthy of being, alive?
The advice I would give somebody today is, there's a reason why you were born, and let's start there.
Mhm.
My advice to somebody is, you were born for a reason. We may not know what that reason is. None of us do. But if you weren't meant to be here, or if you weren't worth being here, then I'm sure that God would have found a way for you not to have survived. How many babies unborn literally don't survive? Anytime that you survive any type of situation that was put in place to hurt you, diminish you, take you out, and you come out of it, that should give you a sign. Those signs that we talk about, that is the sign to say, okay, now what's next? Now let's move forward. Okay, here comes another day. Here comes another month. Here, and you keep on pushing through. And that's my advice is, you are worth it, because it starts with the day that you were born.
I love that. I love that so much. And from your own personal experience, Ashley, what keeps you motivated to stay consistent? Whether it's with your mental health, you working out, going to the gym, or just showing up for yourself.
So this question is very dear to me, and it may sound almost as if though I am contradicting our last question about loving yourself, but I'm going to explain.
Mhm.
I remember going to therapy and my therapist asking me the same exact question, kind of like, okay, would you do it again? What stops you? You know what I mean? When you get to that really dark spot, like would you try to attempt with your life again? I today have two special people in my life right now currently that the way I put it in my mind is if I was to do this thing, right? How would it affect these two people who mean so much to me? And Anthony, that is what helps me when I am very, very dark because I still have those days where I'm like, I just want to be done with it, you know? Take me out. And I think about my sister, I think about my little sister, and I think about my partner, and I think about how these two people would have to call my mother. These are the two people who know me so well that I would be missing from their life. Like I would literally be missing. And that gives me the strength to want to try because I love them so much that I want to be here and I want to be in their life, you know, and that gives me motivation to always make the right choice and call them when I am really down. Those are my support people.
That's awesome. Um, I just want to close out with this final question to you, Ashley. And again, thank you again for your time.
Yes.
It's so appreciated, and this is it's well needed. You know, um, where
Yeah.
do you see your voice making an impact next? And do you s- do you ever think about using your story or your platform in a bigger way?
I want to write a book. Um, I've been thinking about it for years. I'm not a writer, but I would love to write a book. I even have a title for it. It's called Smile. You're the first one to hear it. um,
Well,
I would love
thank
to
you.
write a book called Smile. It's literally because when you got on camera, what's the first thing you said to me? You know, a lot of people always say, Ashley, you have an unforgettable smile, you know? And my book would talk about what's behind my smile. And it would talk about my most darkest moments within my life, you know, the ugly moments to understand what that smile truly represents. That is what I would love to do. And I would love to use my voice in that way. I would love to get a book out and put it on Amazon and that would be kind of like my next thing because right now what I was doing was just using my social media for like health, you know, for gym and fitness and still combining that with my mental health. But right now I honestly want to focus more so on consciousness and unconsciousness and kind of like I'm 30 now, you know. So I think a book would be kind of like the next voice for me.
I will be there day one buying your book, and I need your autograph. You know, when that time comes, for sure.
Deal. And a picture, and a picture. You'll be sitting right next to me.
Please, I'll be honored, for real. I'll be there. Just endorse your book for real. That's all the question I have for now, Ashley. Um, is there anything else you wanted to share, or anything that maybe I might have missed out in the questions?
No, honestly, Anthony, I just wanted to say thank you. You know, stuff like this, you know, like they want to interview me. They have been following me for a few years now, asking me, like, hey, you know, can we ask you a few questions? Will you be an ambassador? And honestly, I mean, the first person I say yes to.
Oh wow.
And this is the first time I'm actually going through with it. You know what I mean? Only because it's been a long time coming. So thank you for giving me the platform and the freedom to tell my story and to be vulnerable and to be real and to kind of give the world a piece of the Ashley Sosa that they don't get to see off of social media, you know? Because we live in a generation right now where we're too invested in social media and not in actual real life, you know. So thank you for taking the time. Honestly, I
Well,
really do appreciate this and I enjoyed it. So thank you.
thank you. Thank you so much. And for those who want to follow your journey right now, because I know, yeah, social media can be a bit toxic sometimes, but where can people follow you and um, keep um following your journey until the time when your book comes out?
I was gonna say I would do my Instagram. My Instagram is my biggest platform for motivation and just ambassador. It's gonna be my IG. I can actually share with you guys what that name is. You guys can follow me. Feel free to always inbox me, ask me questions. I'm an open book. I swear I am. I love hearing other people's stories and kind of being part of their journey and allowing them to become part of my journey, even still to this day, you know? So I will spell it out. It's going to be underscore SOSASWORLD underscore 06, which is my last name, Sosa's World underscore 06. So feel free to reach out anytime.
Perfect. And I'm gonna make sure that that your tag is underneath the description of this video as well to make sure everyone follows you as well. Um,
Perfect.
all right, perfect. Thank you so much, Ashley. Thank you guys so much for watching. And anyone who is watching, who I hope your day gets better. Life is short. Just know that you matter, and just know that you're not alone. And there's always going to be someone that not everyone is able to give you a free space or a safe space to allow you to vent or talk about those feelings, those dark moments in your mind. But it's not impossible. Your life does matter. And Ashley coming on to this platform today, which again, thank you so much. It just resonated with me a lot for why I started this, because everyone's story is different. Everyone has everyone goes through trauma, everyone goes through hardships. And thank you so much. I hope to have Ashley on back in the future again for sure. Um, we'll go from there. But yes, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Go follow Ashley, and we will see you guys in the next video. Take care.
Yeah, then.